Good Saturday morning, episode 194 of Hobby Hotline. Today, we are broadcasting from the planet of Bench Clear Media. I'm John Newman, Sports Card Nation in the state of New York. And today, I am joined by Uncle Rich Klein in Texas and Logan Ward down there in Memphis, Tennessee. I off the air, I tried to have a move into North Carolina, but no such luck. So, morning, gentlemen.
Hey, speaking of Memphis, Tennessee, how big is the morning today for Jerry Lee?
It's all over the news. It's pretty sad. Of course, he recorded with Elvis and everybody down at Sun Studio. But yeah, it's a pretty big deal here. It's pretty sad. I think he was 87, so he had a good run. But yeah, we're mourning him pretty hard here.
Yeah, he was the last man standing of the Sun Quartet from the 1950s. The Million Dollar Quartet: Gene Vincent, Johnny Cash, a guy by the name of Elvis Presley, and Jerry Lee Lewis. And one day they all showed up at the studio at the same time. Too
Yeah,
bad poor Sam Phillips could not have the money to keep them all, because could you imagine what really could have happened if he had had the money to keep all of them instead of just being a regional record label?
oh my gosh, it would have been phenomenal for him. There was so much talent. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall back then. That would have really been neat.
Well,
And I
I
say
could
that
I
because
could
yesterday I spent some of my time at ComC and my cataloging work going through the 1992 Elvis Presley set and finding other people listed on the card so I could add them to the database. You talk about interesting rabbit holes. That was one.
I bet it was.
yeah. Well, guys, let's continue sort of that sad news vibe, if you will. Yesterday, matter of fact, I believe it was yesterday, Tom Brady and Giselle Bundchen announced, they will be getting a divorce. Tom hasn't played very well this year, or at least not very Brady esque. And, we're going to talk about sort of the hobby effects. I did a show 2 weeks ago, and Tom Brady is always a big seller for me at my shows. And fortunately, I always either have a decent size inventory of them, or I make sure to sort of restock so I have a decent sized inventory. And for the first time, and I can't even remember when, I didn't sell a single Tom Brady card 2 weeks ago. He's not playing great, obviously. He's 45 years old. Father time catches us all. He's 3-5 as a team record, which is the worst he's ever been involved in. And we're seeing. But here's the thing: now that he's getting divorced, I think the divorce. There's a lot of factors to divorce. It's not necessarily just one thing, but I think the big one, if you read between the lines and what some people are talking about, is the fact that he retired and then unretired, and she wanted him home so she can partake in some activities that she kind of put on hold. And now that this divorce looks like it's going to go through, we may get, I don't know, based on this year's play, maybe he does retire again, but he won't have a wife at this point making him or kind of hinting at him to retire. So we may get potentially 3 to 4 more years of Tom Brady. Maybe he goes to San Francisco and finishes out his career kind of in his hometown, so to speak. But just some of your thoughts on the hobby effect. He's not playing great, guys, but his record is cemented. 7 rings, going to be a unanimous and first ballot Hall of Famer. But just kind of what your take on this particular topic.
Well, I think that I'll admit I'm not a huge Tom Brady fan, but I will say that I think he's overstated his welcome maybe in the National Football League. Maybe last year should have been the time he really should have left. I mean, look at all the athletes in the past that have overstayed their welcome in their respective leagues. I mean, I'll tell you, like right now, Richard Petty, in NASCAR, I'm a NASCAR guy. He stayed way too long. He retired in 1992. He should have retired, 6, 7 years earlier. And we see that a lot. And I think that has a tendency to tank their legacy just a little bit. I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, it's hard because when you're that good, you always want to hear the roar of the crowd and all the
Mm-hmm.
fans. I tell the story. The last year I ever did stats at the U.S. Tennis Open, I knew this was going to be the last year I was going to do this, and I had a badge that enabled me to basically to go everywhere but one restaurant on the grounds of the U.S. Tennis Open. And before the John McEnroe, David Wheaton, like quarterfinal match at like Wednesday night of the U.S. Open, where basically at that point everybody's watching that match, and it's a triple. It was a triple decker stadium. I think it's now Louis Armstrong Stadium or whatever they call it now, and they have It's now no longer the big stadium. There's actually a newer one that's even bigger. And I'm looking up, and you see the stands are packed. And you see it's triple decker, and you realize people are there to watch you play tennis, or watch you play football, or watch you play basketball, or watch you play baseball. And you hear the roar of the crowd. And, you're a boxer. And, when you knock out somebody, that's a feeling. And then everybody's standing up and cheering when you're the championship level. That's why Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier really couldn't retire or came out of retirement. When that happens, it's hard to give it up. And for Richard Petty, wasn't his final year Jeff Gordon's rookie year in NASCAR?
Yes, yeah. The last race of 1992 was Richard Petty's, of course, last race and Jeff Gordon's first race. So it was the end of an era and the beginning of an era. It was a great race, actually.
Yeah. So it's nice when you can pass the torch like that, but it's really hard to give up that feeling when you're doing something. And because it's hard to give it up, you don't want to. And remember I'm reflecting back to 1994, just before the baseball strike, when Ryan Sandberg retired because he was going through a very rocky, period of his marriage that ended up in divorce later. You don't know how these things affect you. And so, sometimes you play better, believe it or not, when you're going through family issues, because then you focus totally on the field. Sometimes you don't. And I think long term, there's going to be no issue with Tom Brady rookie cards or Tom Brady cards. I think long term, you're fine. We have Rex, watching as he always does, and we appreciate that. I guarantee you in a year or two, he'll still be selling Tom Brady cards.
Oh, yeah. And maybe this play, and again, I don't know. We're all speculating here. Maybe this poor play is coming from what's going on in his relationship. And once that's sort of settled and he moves on from it, you're probably going to get 3 more years of Brady. And maybe he'll sort of be, reinvigorated. Maybe you'll get the younger version, for another year or two. I'm not a Tom like you, Logan. Being a Steeler fan, Brady's kept us out of a few Super Bowls. So personally, not a fan of him, but you can't deny, just because of that, I can't deny, the numbers he's put up and the track record and whatnot. I want him to retire just because I still have nightmares every few weeks where I wake up from. But it's going to be interesting to see it play out. But I thought it was a strange occurrence for me, like I said a couple weeks ago, to like not sell like $1 in Tom Brady cards. I don't even know if I could say that's ever really happened at any show I've set up since he's become a starter in the NFL. So it was a weird. I remember, and it was noticeable. No one asked about him. I had some bigger Brady cards in the case, and just no one really pointed to him too much that I was aware of or asked to see him. So, again, regardless of what's going on this year, That doesn't mean that anything that happened prior didn't happen. So we'll see how this plays out. But let's go to our next topic. Kind of similar, but this is my favorite part of the year, guys. I can only speak for myself here. I'm a fall guy. I love fall. Maybe it comes from coaching football for double digit years. Maybe it comes from playing football and being a football fan. But I love this part of the year. And when we're talking about sports, guys, right now we got all four sports going. You got NFL midseason, so we're starting to see who's real, who's not, players and teams. We got NBA and NHL kind of just kick-starting their seasons into gear, and obviously in baseball we got the World Series where postseason heroes are made, and Kyle Tucker is sticking an early flag into the ground for that, even though they wound up not winning the game. He had 2 home runs. So I love this time of year. Excuse me. But also as a seller, as a dealer, this is where, guys can come out of nowhere. Guys can have a big night. We're going to talk about that. I know Rich, before we came on, mentioned, Tyrese Maxey had a 44-point night. Kyle Tucker last night, who's a guy I already loved prior to that. Like, he's not brand new, but now maybe more people will notice because it's happening on a bigger stage. So this is the kind of year where I call roller coaster players, right? Guys who struggle will sort of become an afterthought, and guys who just have a great week, a great night, put their name on the hobby map, I should say. So just some of your thoughts and some of what we've seen. Bobo put his name back out there again with a pretty good night the other night. Just when you thought you could move on from Bobo, he says, "Don't forget about me just yet." But what do you guys think about this time of year where all four sports are going, and just cards? Player pricing is just going to vary by the night they have.
Well, I think the hobby it's more cyclical than I've ever seen it as far as, you know, players or whoever having a good night versus a bad night, and how just in the period of one day, the prices can fluctuate tremendously. And we're going to see a lot of that now, especially since all four sports are going, actually five sports, if you want to include NASCAR in that as well. But yeah, you're right, John. This is a great time of the year. I'm a college football fan. I like NFL. Of course, living here in Memphis, we've got Ja, and he's doing well. I just hope he doesn't have any kind of injuries, because that's probably going to affect his cards just a little bit. But I'm really enjoying it so far this year.
Well, six sports if you include the fact that in a month or so the World Cup begins, and
Yes.
soccer's. I could make a point soccer a real sport, but I know those race car drivers. It's very hard to drive, so I will refrain from callous comments about race car driving. But seriously, there will be a sixth sport with soccer, and in addition, one of the things is, and by the way, before we do anything else, John, please post please post the thing for people to call in.
Yep, I'll put it on there.
Because we were so nice having Eric Norden call in on Tuesday night, and we really like when people call in, especially to disagree with me. But
there you go. It's in the chat, and I'll put it on the screen too.
Okay, this is a great time for sports, and it's like April and May, and now October into November, when all the sports are going on. It's really a cool time, and you don't know what to buy. And just remember, the holiday season's coming up too. And I kid because I care about NASCAR, but the chase is going on, which is really cool. Yes, Bo, WWE or AEW wrestling, we can have that. I mean, and to be honest, even if it's pre-scripted, those people are really good athletes.
Oh, yes, they are.
I mean, and if you've ever watched it, they have even codes if something goes wrong. There are codes, and I'm a big wrestling fan. I've been a wrestling fan since the 70s, of the days of Bobo Brazil and Pedro Morales and Stan the Man Stasiak, and all those people. So, these, a lot of these cards are forever. And the sports are forever. And JT Romando hit the game-winning homer last night. By the way, the first catcher to hit an extra inning homer in the World Series since Carlton Fisk Game 6, 1975.
Wow.
Hey, we got a caller. It's a familiar face. We're gonna bring him on. I think he's probably gonna gonna brag a little bit. He's from Philly. He was just on, made his debut earlier this week. So, cousin Tony, good morning.
What up, boys? How you doing? John, we're coming.
Well, listen, I don't have, I'm a Mets guy, so either way, I don't win. But listen, I'm just hoping for a good series, and if Game 1 is any indication, I think we're in for a good one. I don't see this being a 4-game sweep, so you're looking at least 5, 6, if not 7 games. I'm going for the 7-game series. I know right now Tony will say 4 because he knows what that would mean. But what's going on in the Philly area today?
Well, I haven't blinked in like 15 hours, man. That game last night was crazy because like Astros jump out 5-0. I'm like, oh man, here you go. And Philly, to their credit, they chipped away, man. It's wild because I guess Houston's best pitchers, and although Verlander in the World Series tends to not pitch as well as he does, and then they get to that bullpen, man. Those guys in that bullpen, though, the Astros are tough all around. They don't strike out much, so it's just like to be able to steal that game last night was definitely cool. I wanted to ask you guys. You guys have been in this longer than me, so guys like you mentioned, the right fielder for the Astros and stuff like that. Are you picking up anything like guys like Reese Hoskins, those secondary play, not those under the radar guys? Do you wait through the World Series and see, or do you? Because like last night, like Reese had a pretty quiet game. Do you pick up a couple cards, Game 1, and hope that in tonight or Game 3 or whatever that he kind of does something and look to move him, or do you just kind of stay away from buying altogether during the series?
I have a ton of Kyle Tucker, which I had
Uh-huh.
prior to last night, Tony. It's not like I went out and bought him.
Mhm.
I've always been a Kyle Tucker guy. When he was in the minors, I was buying a lot of his first Bowman's, chrome, paper, autos. So, last night's game didn't make me cry too much because what I have, we'll see. He's not sneaking up on anyone. Most people knew Kyle Tucker before last night, but those are the kind of performances that make your eBay notifications blow up that you better get shipping.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
There are 4 players this year in baseball that had 30 or more homers and 10 or more stolen bases. 2 of them are in the World Series. One is Kyle Tucker. Who's the Philly? Tony, who's the Philly?
Schwarber.
That's him. 46 homers,
Yep.
10 steals.
Yeah, he.
I mean, think about that type of year. And because Aaron Judge hit so many homers, Schwarber stayed under the radar.
Yes.
If you were, and again, this is if you were buying it yesterday, but if you were buying him quietly while everybody was focusing on Aaron Judge,
Mm-hmm.
and you got him to the World Series and he has a Kyle Tucker type game, you cash in the minute he hits those 2 homers. And he also looks and plays like an everyman. In other words, the 4 of us look like we could be Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, he definitely.
in my case, John Kruk. I've been told, or David Wells. I've been told. I have a David Wells story. I'm not going to tell it on the show. Would take the rest of the show. I'll tell it. I actually told it on an old hobby quick hits, so you can listen to it there. But I was once. I'll give it a cliff notes. A kid. I was at Yankee Stadium during a point when David Wells was on the DL, and I was, obviously in plain clothes, which I would normally be because I don't play for the Yankees. and this young man was convinced I was David Wells, was asking me for autographs. I was trying to tell him I'm not. I even took out my driver's license to show him, it says John Newman, not David Wells. Well, he tells me, you could have a fake license to throw people off. I'm like, buddy, I wish, I wish I could help you out. But crazy story. So, and a few other people, when I played baseball and softball, they said my nickname was John Kruk. So there you go, Rich. I think you hit it right on the head.
I thought you were Lee Majors because you said you were a fall guy.
Yeah. Oh no, fall's my favorite season. I'll never be confused with the $6 million man.
No, and it's definitely not Mary Farrah Fawcett either.
Yeah. Yes, rest her soul.
And
Also want to add,
all of us, tip your waiters and remember to try the veal.
Gosh.
Yeah. Vince Dooley. I know. Herman in the chat. Wanted to mention the famous Georgia Bulldog coach Vince Dooley also passed away. So, rest in peace, Vince Dooley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and I had actually thought Jerry Lee Lewis had died a few years back. So, and then I saw a post that said Jerry Lee Lewis has not died the day before he died. So I guess somebody kind of jumped the gun on the reporting of that.
He
but
may have been, for all we know, but in a case like that, you wait for it to become official. You don't post it until it's official.
Yeah,
you show respect for the family and all that. So,
yeah. Hey,
Mark Hoyle,
Logan said 87's a good run.
Yeah, Mark Hoyle said when Tucker the second home run, he thought of Gene Tennis.
I thought of Willie Mays Aikens.
Yeah.
Listen, when he came up at the end of the game there, and Altuve's on base, and I'm like, oh man, this is not going to be good. And when they were able to get past him, I'm like, okay, maybe there's a chance here. But man, he's definitely seeing the ball. He's making contact. So it'll be interesting to see how tonight goes. Hey, fellas, well, I will leave you go. The wife has the to-do list out.
So what type of fruit is she having you do for your honeydew?
So today is filled with running to some kind of craft store or something to get some. I don't read into it. It gets put on my desk and I just pick it up
no questions asked. No questions asked.
Pick up.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've learned to just nod, get it done, and then just ride off into the sunset.
Wow, you have a honeydew desk. Oh my gosh.
Well, listen, if you're gonna get a honeydew list, at least get the honey. Like, get something for yourself. Like,
yeah, for sure. Oh, don't worry. Right next to the craft store, there is a card shop. So
there you go.
Oh, that's very convenient. Well, back in the day, my wife used to tell me, "Oh, by the way, do you want to go to Nick's today?" And whenever she told me, "Do you want to go to Nick's today?" that meant it was next door to a Jewish style deli called Cindy's. That means they had placed an order at Cindy's and I was picking it up.
Yeah, that's funny.
But hey, fellas,
Cindy's is very good, by the way.
That's awesome. Here. Hey, fellas, I'm gonna get out of here. Have a good rest of the show.
Hey, Tony, thank you. Good, I hate to say it, being a Mets guy, but good luck to your Phillies, and it'll be fun to watch the rest of the series.
Appreciate it. Have a good show.
See you, man.
All right,
see you.
Take care. Cousin Tony in the Philly area there, one of our new members of Hobby Hotline. He made his debut this past Tuesday, and it was excellent. And that was a great show. Eric Norton called in and gave away not 1, 2, or 3 Joe Montana autographs, but 4 Joe Montana.
You get a Montana autograph, and you get a Montana autograph.
It was. We will have to call Eric Oprah next time I talk to him. So guys, yeah, go ahead, Logan.
I was going to say, did you guys see where the Philadelphia baseball is intertwined with the economy and how it seems like the economy is always bad when the Philadelphia team or the Phillies or the Athletics have won the World Series?
Well, then that should tell you to root for the Astros.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't want a
I
bad
didn't.
economy.
I didn't see that, Logan. But there's someone else I like to blame, and it has nothing to do with a baseball uniform. But I'm
But
not
I
going to
mean, but
go there.
Morgan's
But
saying from the
you
last
can.
Philadelphia A's time when they won 3 straight World Series, 29-31 was just when, or they didn't win three, but they were in 3 straight World Series. I believe they won 29 and 30 and lost in 31.
Mm-hmm.
Is during the Depression, and this year it's the inflation. And 1993, the economy was kind of quivering, and in 1980 we went through really the first baseball card boom of pricing. And it was, of course, the Phillies were, that's the year they won their first World Series ever. It's, well, I
Yeah,
don't
that
think
was
1950 the economy was that bad. 1915, just a couple years before World War I, so the economy was a little bit shaky in those days because
yeah,
we had to get generated for a war economy. So, yeah, it's an interesting conundrum.
it really is. And like 2008, we had the recession then.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's been a lot of adversity in the economy when the Phillies win the World Series or Philadelphia.
Now, there's a great topic to write a dissertation about.
It is.
So what are you saying, Logan? We have to root for the Astros to pull
I don't
the
want to root for
series
the
out?
Astros. They're kind of like the evil empire, ever since their cheating
Yeah.
scandal and everything. So not a fan. I'm for the Phillies, but I don't want a bad economy either. So you're right. It's a conundrum for sure.
It's a catch-22.
It is.
By the way,
The team you're rooting against will cause your Cheerios to be twice the price.
By the way, switching topics, we were talking about this before the show. So congratulations to Logan on the marriage of his son.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a great ceremony. We had a great time. My son got married. He also collects sports cards. In fact, he was at the National with us. But he got married last Sunday to his now lovely bride, Trisha. So congratulations to them. I'm very happy and very proud. It's nice to have a daughter-in-law.
Yeah, I can't speak for Tyler, your son, but you think marriage changes how he collects?
Well, he told me that in planning for the wedding, he has not bought very many sports cards. But he says now that the wedding's over and everything, he plans on buying a lot more cards now.
Well, it's funny because I sold my first card accumulation after I moved to Texas to pay for my wedding. And now I sold it earlier this year. And I got more money this year than I did in 2005. So good for me on that. But so I understand it changed. I didn't buy cards for a couple years after I got married. I mean, now, and then I went hog wild for a while. And now this year, I've been very quiescent about buying cards. I guess I may start, I'm lucky. I have the Dallas Card Show 10 minutes from my house. So every 2 months, I get to really dig in and buy stuff where a lot of people don't get that, that benefit of being 10 minutes from a really good show. And we've talked about this. It's also going to be interesting to see what's going to go on at the Dallas Card Show next week. Kyle and his team do a great job promoting it. There's always interest. And we'll see. Because Dallas has teams in all 4 sports. And we got Luka, and Luka's really good. The Stars, we have a 24-year-old gold scorer or 23-year-old gold scorer. I believe his name is Robertson. He's very good. The Cowboys are going to make the playoffs this year. And the Rangers just hired a guy who's won 3 World Series and is going to make the Hall of Fame as a manager. And they've got a lot of tools in place. So it's an exciting time, actually, to be down here. It'll be interesting to see how that.
I think you just jinxed the Cowboys, though, by putting them in.
I was going to say that.
Like you've got them in.
They got the Bears on Sunday, and with apologies to Bo, because the Bears played Monday night, it's a noon game. Bo, your Bears are going down on tomorrow.
Well, they just beat the Patriots. I don't. You're writing checks early before the money's deposited.
Good luck, Micah Parsons.
Listen. I like the
Good luck
enthusiasm.
with that. Micah Parsons. By the way, if you want to really invest, in my opinion, this is my opinion only. If you want to invest in the next Lawrence Taylor, go buy Micah Parsons cards at whatever level they are now.
Yeah, and I think that's a great subject too, Rich, is we're seeing a little bit more love for defensive football players. Micah Parsons, I know he's hurt right now, but TJ Watt for my Steelers is probably going to, barring more injuries, which I hope don't happen, is going to break some team records, and I think he's going to break some league records. And it's a great opportunity for what you can get. Some of these guys' autograph cards, for rookie cards, numbered rookie cards. It's a great. I think you're going to come out in the end if you buy them now. I don't like to tell people what to buy, but I have to agree with you. So,
and I never tell people what to buy. I'm just making a suggestion on Micah Parsons as a hometown boy here. But I will tell you, I've been on the, I always told people, hey, Daniel Jones has possibility playing quarterback in New York, and I'll stick with that. Anytime you get somebody playing well in the New York media market, and the Jets, by the way, are playing pretty well too. So I know they just lost their running back, their number one running back. But
yeah, well, they just traded for James Robinson from Jacksonville. Daniel Jones is, to me, Rich, not to debate you, is more of a game manager. Just, hey, don't go out there and lose us the game, Daniel, which was what he was doing last year. This is a guy that led the league in fumbles plus interceptions and turnovers. He's not doing that this year. But I think the biggest story in New York is two guys, really. It's the culture that Brian Daboll's brought in there, coming over from Buffalo as the new head coach. He's done what Joe Judge couldn't do. And then the reemergence of a guy I really like, one of my favorite non-Steeler players, and that's Saquon Barkley. He looks like pre-injury Saquon Barkley. And if he can stay healthy, that's the big F, right? The Giants look like they could be the real deal. And Saquon Barkley looks like the back everybody predicted he'd be coming out of Penn State when he's drafted. So I'm going to –
football's a rough game. People get hurt. And the 49ers just traded last week for Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And, now they have Deebo Samuels and Christian McCaffrey. Think about that type of options you can do with the offense in San Francisco. That's a move that shows when you're going for it. And fans like when you're going for it because that means you're getting good players.
So I'm going to throw a theory out there and see what you guys think. What's on the offensive side of the Niners? What's their biggest hole right now? QB, right? QB. You got Jimmy G's not playing well. Some decision-making issues. Some picks. Holding the ball too long. Taking sacks. Right? Who's from the San Francisco area and now doesn't have to live any particular one place because he's not going to be married anymore, right? Right? Might Brady return home and join forces with said Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuels?
So what's Brady's contract with Tampa Bay? Is it just this year, or do we know?
I think so. I think when he retired and came back. I don't know. I'm not 100%. I don't want to claim to be, but I think it's this year, and I think he's got enough equity in his career and for bringing a Super Bowl to even the Tampa Bay in his first year. If he went to him and said, "Listen, I kind of want to finish my last 2 to 3 years, in my hometown with my parents, can come out. It'll be easier for them. They're getting older to come out and watch me all my home games and finish out my career." I think he's done too, Bo. I'm just saying we thought he was done right at the end of last season or whenever he announced it, right? And he came back. So no one really knows. Do I think he's going to retire? He's not having a great year. Does he really want that to be sort of the last? I read a quote recently. Actually, he said a couple weeks ago. He said that if he can win one more Super Bowl, he will definitely retire. He wants to go out. If he could script that, which he had that opportunity a couple years ago, right? Um, but I think he wants to go out on if not a Super Bowl, not sort of looking like he is. So I don't know. Only Tom Brady knows, and I don't even know if he knows. I think it depends what day is how he might be thinking something else. So
Even
Yeah.
last year in the playoffs, that game where they came back against the Rams from all those points down and basically lost on a final second field goal, that would have been just as good as a moment to retire as any. No, it wasn't a Super Bowl win, but it showed he still had it. And so that game would have been, in that stage, just as good as any. If it's
and
not the Super Bowl win, that would have been a good game too. And
and,
thank
and
you for eliminating the sex bot from our drive. We've made it big time when the sex bots are making our chat.
yeah, I put a stop to that pretty quickly. So I was like a hockey goalie there. I just swept that aside.
So,
We
so
got
you're our Martin Brodeur.
yeah. Or I like to be. I'll be Mike Richter. I'm a big, huge Ranger guy, so I did, or Henrik Lundqvist. So
Oh,
hey,
or
we
Eddie
got
Jacquemin or Gilles Villemure.
yeah. That was a little. I'm not that old, Rich. I'm old, but not quite that old. Hey, let's
I am
bring
that old.
let's bring Danny Black's in the green room. So there he is. We caught him looking down at his phone.
Danny.
I just found out I won something on eBay. It was very
Was it a Cow Tucker autograph card?
no, but I'll sell you a whole bunch.
Yeah, well, I have a whole bunch.
I got a bunch of Jalen Hurts available. If anybody wants to contact me, we're moving everything right now. Good morning, gentlemen. I just wanted to step in, and I wasn't able to hear everything, but I just wanted to make sure everybody's respectful of the children involved with Tom and Giselle.
Yeah,
I-
no
I-
doubt. No,
They didn't ask for this. They didn't ask to be born into it. They didn't ask for the media. And whatever we think of them, the parents, the kids should not be in the conversation. And I've seen other people start to mention them, and that had me. I just wanted to bring that up because we're positive people.
yeah, no doubt. And those are the first, unfortunately, the first folks that take it on the chin. They're caught in the
No, but I
middle
thought,
of that.
looking
So,
at the comments, that is a reasonable comment about hey, are you going to move and leave the kids? Especially because then there becomes child custody issues. So Danny's right about that. And having a wife and a mother-in-law who have, for what they were getting paid, it was basically volunteer work, working for a place that did court-ordered supervised visits. Trust me, there is nothing that's harder to deal with than
I
child.
want to comment on this comment.
Please.
This comment makes a lot of sense if you're me and you don't have a private jet and houses in whatever city you want. But so let's just go on the hypothetical that he goes to play out the last couple years of his career in San Francisco. He's going to have a house wherever his kids live in Florida. He can live in the whole off season in Tampa Bay or Tampa, if you will. He can fly on a whim. The game ends Sunday afternoon. He hops in the shower, does his press conference, gets on the tarmac, and spends. Teams typically don't practice to Tuesday or Wednesday. Spends a couple days. So, Tom Brady is not 99% of us that don't have the ability to do that. So when we say up and leave his kids, we're not talking about a deadbeat dad. We're talking about a dad who can fly to his kids as quick as an airplane can get you there, and can get on a runway and take off. Can buy $1 million house in whatever city he wants to reside in, and so that comment might apply to us, but it doesn't apply to Tom Brady.
Can I just throw something in there? And this
Yeah,
is this might be personal as a son of divorce. I don't care if dad has an airplane. When you're at mom's house and you're crying and you want to see dad, and
No,
I mean, we just come on, guys. Like for the people who are texting in, like this is not about Tom Brady's privilege. We're talking about the kids. We don't know. Giselle has a profession. She's going to travel. Rich hit it right. When you start talking about custody and all that stuff, and you're talking about grandparents, and a lot of us come from families where our families are involved, or have been at times in our lives. This is a lot more than just Tom and Giselle.
And on a really serious note, one of my former Beckett teammates completed suicide over a child custody issue. So I've known, and actually we had dinner with him 2 weeks before that happened, and he seemed fine at that dinner. I mean, he was going to be starting to come down regularly to the DFW area, but it still affects me when I realize that for a temporary issue, he chose a permanent solution, and it was the wrong solution. So, I mean, Danny's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and listen, I agree. And the fact is, if you're one of the Brady kids, your mom and dad are not going to be together, and that hits home. So I get it. I just wanted to bring out the point that he's not. He has more wherewithal to be there on the drop of a dime, where someone else who left that far wouldn't. So, but I don't know, guys. Paige and Deneby says, "Hey, let's break up. Can we see some sports cards that will cheer anyone
It's
up?"
just a random group.
Well, the other reason I wanted to jump on is I think that we should all share, if anybody is listening, their favorite Tom Brady cards, because he had a great career, and I don't want the last 2 years to ruin his. I think his career in hindsight.
Yeah, I don't have any.
I don't have any.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
Wait, I do. Oh, I do. I have it. They're behind me. Hang on.
I do have a Tops Now Nick DeVries 1-of-1 card I got from Tops Now.
Is he happily married, Logan?
2 of the 3 of the other panelists had their origin stories on Dr. Beckett's podcast in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was a great honor.
Here's my Brady card for the day. It's the closest one to me.
Oh, so that's a 10.
It is a gem mint 10. Skybox Dominion. And he's on there with, it's one of those dual rookies. He's on there with Giovanni Camarzi. So, if you're looking for a Giovanni Camarzi card, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So,
I do have a Zachary Tinkle card, who is going into my sophomoric slabs collection here soon.
What's going on with Hallie Deegan?
Come on in. It's still going, but come on in. You can be on. You can be on for a second.
Uh-oh. We have a special guest.
Okay, Stefan, you can be on for a second.
Oh, Stefan.
Say hi.
Come on, man. What's going on, buddy?
You recognize this person.
Indeed. Guys, I'll jump off. Enjoy your show.
We're going to be taping some podcasts with
Danny
later today. So, and I have some stuff for them. So I told them to come up. We'll do lunch and then go in since they've moved to a much more reasonable area. This is better than Grand Prairie. Other than you don't have that good sandwich shop nearby.
It's a good place too.
Yes.
Does Steph have any Tom Brady cards on him? He wants to show.
On me, no. But there's quite a few at the apartment. Understandably.
So
the question is, how's his Twins collection doing?
I keep finding it in more and more boxes.
All right, guys, let's go. Let's go to our next topic I have, and this is good. We got a PSA Hall of Famer here in Logan, and we're seeing, and this is a good thing. we're seeing the grading sub pricing coming down. Beckett just announced they've dropped prices. PSA announced that prior, and SGC announced that prior. CSG had done it even before that. So we're seeing, if you want to call them
Don't be
the
shy,
big
Angela. You
four,
look good. You're all-
lowering sub prices. Logan,
You said you
we'll
were going
go
to
to
be
you
the original
first.
star of the show.
Rich has got a full office there.
About the cards.
Your thoughts on all these
Go ahead.
companies, not just PSA, but PSA included, lowering their grading prices.
Well, I'm actually glad to see it. And I've kind of predicted this a long time ago. I know that we had discussed this, I think, on Hobby Hotline way back when prices were higher. And I think it was Drew. We were talking with Drew. And I still think that there's a lot of room for the prices to come down, across the board for everybody. And I'll speak to PSA. I think that we should probably see, and I'm hoping to see, at least maybe $15 or sub $15 submissions coming soon, because they were already doing TCG cards at $15, so we know that they can do that. So I'm hoping that maybe next month we'll see that. But I'm glad to see it all the way around the board. And of course, the competition spawns this. It spawns all of this. I mean, one person goes down, other people got to compete. So I'm really glad that we're finally seeing this, because it was really out of hand there for a little while. I mean, you can't. I know there's a lot of people that have $100 cards, and you can't pay $50 to get a $100 card graded. It's just not feasible. It's just doesn't make any economical sense. So I think there's more room for the prices to come down further, as we go on.
I've been saying for a long time that I think the eventual price is going to settle between $15 and $20, especially at PSA, where they now have an East Coast office. They've hired a ton of people. I know Beckett has hired more people, and there's still, when I looked on LinkedIn the other day, there were several positions open at Beckett. I did not check about whether SGC or CSG are hiring people, but I'm sure they are too. And when you hire all those people, it just becomes a business thing that if they're good employees, you've got to do something to keep them employed. Mm-hmm. And you're still going to make money at $15 to $20 to slab a card. And therefore, you're okay at $15 to $20. And, there's a price point where, and I don't know, what the new number is, but there's always a price point where you're going to make a profit. Even if it's $1,000 card, and PSA ups, and they upcharge you for an expensive card too. Mm-hmm. So there's that. And the reason they do that, even though it would frustrate me as a user, is for the insurance purposes of shipping you your card back.
Right.
I understand that, but PSA 10 versus PSA 9 are two very different things, and they don't tell you before they ship it to you, so you can get that surprise. Your grading fee was higher.
Yeah, there is that too, but usually, hopefully, it's for something that shows that it's worth the extra value to upcharge your card. That's one thing I like. When you pay for a card, well, I believe with the other three grading companies, you're paying that price.
Yeah, don't get me started on the upcharges. This will be a 2-hour show. I'm not. John, do not say nothing. John, do not. All right, I'm good. I did my self-awareness there, but I'd like to see it get down to someone meant Paige and Deanie Bean, $10. You're a Hall of Fame PSA registry member. Let's talk about the registry. I mean, what do you see there, Logan, as far as like registry prices to, you think there'll be any, do you think they'll do a separate deal there?
Yes, I think they eventually will. I talked to some of the guys at the National, and we talked about that, because, I mean, if you're going to try to complete a set of, say, like, 85 Topps baseball cards, I mean, there's common cards on there that are not worth grading unless you can get it graded at a very low price point. So that in itself is going to hurt the registry if you can't do that. So you've got to be able to keep the registry alive by lowering prices and allowing people to grade lower price cards. There's just no way around it. It's got to happen.
The problem with that was, as we saw during the boom, and granted, the boom has settled down a bit, is your $3 card with the $8 grading. People were sending in hundreds, if not thousands. I mean, and PSA shut down their local post office in California. They basically had to shut down the local post office. And that's what I mean by you have to figure, it's a very delicate balance. You have to figure out where you don't get overloaded. You've hired all those people, but you need to keep them, you want to keep them employed, but you don't want to keep them so employed that you're paying them overtime again.
Right.
And that's why I'm thinking 15 to 20. And I mean, Nat is a very smart guy. And if Nat figures $12 will end up being the price point, will probably be $10 to $12 or $12 to $15. But I think 15 to 20 makes sense in today's market. And we'll go from there. But I'm with you where if you want to do a registry set of, we'll call it 2022 Topps Chrome update if they do such a set. If you're going to do the whole set, you definitely do. You don't want to pay $20 a card for some of the commons. You want to pay $8 to $10. So there may be some ways around that, but that's why I still say 15 to 20.
Here's a great comment from Rex. I want to sort of read here. $15 to $20 makes sense to me, but the real opportunity for grading companies to deliver superior customer service regardless of price point. Yeah, great response, right? Doesn't matter what the cost, it's what kind of service are you getting. I will say this. I had an SGC, 2 recent orders, one at SGC, one at PSA. PSA came back. I turned it in at the National. It was through you, Logan. I want to give proper credit here. What was that in there for? 60 days?
Yeah, we got it back a few weeks ago. So, yeah, it's been like 60 days from the National. It actually took longer for them to log it than it did for them to go through the grading process.
Yeah. But 60 days is better than the 18 months a lot Absolutely. Of us were talking about, right? Now, the SGC order, again, I'm not, most people have them 1 or 2. Some people have them 1 and 3. But my SGC order came back and it was crazy. 8 days. So I sent it on a Monday, and I think I had it on Thursday of the following week, whatever that 8 days was. That's insane.
But to be honest, someone did there's a great newsletter, and he does the stats each month about how many cards each grading company is doing.
Sure.
And PSA did 1 million cards last month.
Yeah. Oh, there's no.
And the other 3 major companies did about 200,000 cards combined. Mm-hmm. So PSA is doing 5x the total of number 2, 3, and 4. It's kind of
which is why. But that's why I'm giving them credit for 60 days, Rich.
Yes.
I'm not picking on them for 60 days. I'm saying
fair enough. I wanted to make sure.
You know what I mean? It was 18 months, and they are, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, they're the number one grading company, at least in the very least, like Rich just pointed out, in terms of volumes. And quite frankly, when we're talking about in volume, it's not even close. Like he said, you can add up the other 3 grading companies, and they still don't get as much as they did. So we're seeing that 60 day, about 60 days. I'll throw it back to you, Logan. We're kind of making you the PSA spokesman this morning, whether you like it or not. Do you see that 60 days getting less or more? Now, keep in mind, they've lowered their prices. So that high number of cards that they're getting, that Rich pointed out, that may even go up even further as the price comes down. Are you worried about a backlog again, or do you think they have things in place to get even quicker than 60 days?
Well, I think they've got the infrastructure in place now to handle a larger volume of cards. I mean, given what Rich said a while ago, I mean, they did 1 million cards, in a month, but I see the turnaround times getting shorter. I don't think we're going to see longer turnaround times, because they realize how important customer service is, and they realize that during the pandemic, they kind of got a black eye, which it really wasn't their fault, but it ended up just looking bad to them for having to, all these cards, and it took so long to turn everything around. But they are almost done with the backlog. I think from what I heard from Steve Sloan and the guys at PSA, they're still working through some of the Marks cards issues, and there's some other outstanding issues that they're working through. But the bulk of the Tsunami is done, so the backlog is pretty much done. So that's why you're seeing these turnaround times coming around so quick. And I think it's going to get, like I said, I think it's going to get better. And
as we said, they have two offices now. They have an East Coast and a West Coast office, and so they're able to do more things. Plus, they're even part of the eBay verification process, where they're basically, I believe, they're the ones checking the holder.
Yeah, and the other thing too, Rich, not only do they have those multiple locations, they recently, if I'm not incorrect, they expanded either both of those, or at least the California one. They added on quite a bit of space as well.
Yeah, they've taken on more square feet. They've hired a lot of people, and they've spent a lot of time and money training these people. So they don't want to lose them. So once the backlog is completely done, they're going to want to keep these people busy. So they're going to want to get in more cards, and they're going to want to keep that volume up. So that kind of goes back to hopefully lower prices, and hopefully under $15 for sure.
Logan, I'm with you. The lower that they feel they can do pricing, the better it is for all of us. I mean, as Rex, I agree with Rex. And I've been saying 15 to 20. I've been on that train for a long time. I obviously would not mind seeing lower pricing for any of the grading companies, but I'm okay with whatever train it is, because they know what they need to make profit. And if they don't stay in business, all this discussion goes bye-bye. And that's true for everything involved with any of these companies, including the one I work for. We still need to make a profit to survive. I like getting paid.
Yeah,
I'm kind of funny that way.
Getting paid is a good thing, especially when everything costs a lot more than it did previously.
And I just want to tell a little story having nothing to do with this conversation as time is winding down. Last night, we had a very nice pre-bat mitzvah service for a very nice young lady, the first bat mitzvah in our new building at Adat Havarim. And we had, and in this week's Torah portion, or first 5 books of the Bible, it's about the flood and Noah. And I was wearing my jacket because we had 2+ inches of rain here in Dallas area yesterday. So I'm wearing my old Beckett rain jacket, I call it, because it covers me. And it's the old B design. And as I'm walking out, somebody says, "Do you still work at Beckett, or do you work at Beckett?" No, I haven't been there for a long time. But yes, I used to work there. He goes, "Are you in grading?" No, I worked in the price guide area. But as it turned out, he had sold his inventory in January of 2020, just before the boom. But he's starting to get back into it now. Well, look, you sell when you sell.
Yep.
I mean, you don't know that 3 months later there's a tsunami of hobby interest coming, and everybody's going to be wanting to buy what you just sold. That's just a bad timing break. But it was interesting. He was getting back in. There was a tailor 2 doors down from a local Dallas store. He had bought a wild card box, and he had bought some other stuff at the store. And he was excited when I told him there was a big show up here in Allen next weekend. So, it's amazing who you run into that might care about the hobby.
Well, and here's the thing. If he's coming back in or getting back in, it's a good timing, because we've seen things come down cost-wise. I've bought a couple cards that during the boom I wouldn't have, that now I can, right? It was out of reach then, now in reach. So for people coming in the hobby now, it's probably the best time, or one of the best times, right? Because cost-wise, you're going to get more bang for your buck today than you would have a year ago. And that's always a good thing. And listen, it could happen again. I'm not saying that, but things ebb and flow, things go up, things go down. We talked about that just in one night, a guy could score 44 points and those cards go up.
Or
Cal
Bobo can
Tucker
have a
stuff.
massive dunk.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the fun, right? That's the fun, is trying to guess who. It's the gam. People don't like to mention gambling, but it's kind of the gambling aspect of our hobby, and there is an element to that. Anytime you get sports aligned with something, there's going to be a gambling aspect to it. So, well, guys, we're up against the hour. Any final last words?
I gave my story, so I'm good. Logan, you have a final say?
I'm good too.
All right. Well, I'll just say, be safe, be well. We got Halloween. Look out for those kiddos if you're driving around on Monday, and enjoy the rest of the weekend. And I'm going to go watch my Syracuse Orange hopefully beat the Notre Dame Fighting Irish here at the JMA
Cheer
Wireless
for old
Dome.
Notre Dame.
All right. On that note, we're going to call it a show, and we'll see you back here, well, on our Hobby Hotline YouTube on Tuesday night, and we're here Saturday morning. So for Rich, for Logan, I'm John, and we'll see you real soon.